Welcome to the Business Blast podcast. I'm your host, Tyler Wagner. This episode is brought to you by Authors Unite. Authors Unite provides you with all the resources you need to become a successful author. You can learn more about Authors Unite and join the free community at authorsunite.com. Now, let's jump into the episode. All right, everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Business Blast podcast. I'm your host, Tyler Wagner, and today I have Diego Orlandini with me. He's a writer, social entrepreneur, and chief book giver at aimfulbooks.com. So welcome to the show, Diego.
Thank you for having me.
Of course, man. Thanks for joining us, and we will dive in, man, to the first one. The first question I have for you is, what is the best story from your life that has an underlying valuable message?
That's a difficult question, because there's so many stories in our lives, and sometimes it's very difficult to find an underlying value message that could be applied to others, so it is universal. But the one that comes to mind right now is the pursuit for one's dreams. When I graduated from college with an economics degree, summa cum laude, I had a six-figure job offer lined up for me, and I decided not to take it because I knew that working for a company, was not my destiny. It was not my path, and so it took me a lot longer to get where I am. But I feel a lot more fulfilled. And I believe that the value message is to follow your gut feeling, even if it's hard.
Yes. And what is the most valuable piece of information we should know that is within your expertise or industry?
So I do books. I produce books with a lot of artists, and it's very simple, I believe. Making a book can be very difficult and a tedious process, so the most valuable piece of information is organization and perseverance. I had to convince over 150 of the best street artists in the world to join me in this project. So I laid out the mission very clearly, very concise, and the process. And I continued and I persisted and I asked one by one to join me. So I think that's the most valuable piece of information, to be persistent and organized.
And what's your best piece of overall business advice, so not necessarily industry specific?
I was just talking to some people that are working with me now about. I think I've heard it from somebody on a TV show or something, like the 3 Ps. Like the people, product, and process. I believe in having a clean process, lean process as well for doing business. It's very important to have a good product as well. And very, very important is to have good people with you. So if you manage to get good people and a good process, and on top of that you have a good product, you're set.
Yeah,
success should be easier.
And if you could give your younger self one piece of advice, what would that be?
Linking it back with this, I like to do things on my own and learn before I can guide, obviously. So I had a tendency to do things by myself, from accounting to product development to marketing, every little aspect of running a business. I had to be involved, and I had to master it in some kind of sense. If I could give my younger self a piece of advice, is that I actually don't need to do that. I would be better off by finding and trusting the right people. That, of course, takes practice, and it doesn't hurt to actually know what they're doing. It's probably best, But if a matter of saving time, I would tell myself to don't have to do it all yourself.
And in your opinion, what's the key to happiness?
I was talking to my brother about this the other day. I think it's to be congruent with your values. A lot of people think one way and act another way. They say they want one thing, but in reality they want another thing, and so forth. So when you're congruent with your values and your beliefs, you achieve a fulfilling life, because you are actually living out, playing out the values that are in your heart and in your mind. And
what is the best book? I'm excited for your answer on this one. What is the best book that you've read, and what was the number one thing you learned from it?
What's the best book that I've read, and the number one thing that I learned from it? Tons of books. There was one particular book that I read when I was very, very young. I grew up in Peru, so I read in Spanish. And it was, I don't know if the name in English is correct, but it translates to Christ Standing. I'm not religious. I'm very spiritual, but I'm not Christian or Catholic or any of that. Actually, I am, but I don't follow. But the book was written by an Argentinian author, and it was the fictitious tale of what might have been the life of Jesus growing up. And it was just fantastic to see the human element of these fairy tale stories that we are told, right? Like the challenges and the difficulties of even one of the greatest figures in history are still very relatable and very human. So the human condition, in a way, is universal, and that is not only inspiring but also comforting, because it means that what I'm going through, even Jesus has been going through or had gone through, right?
Yeah.
So we all go through the same stuff.
And what is your favorite quote and why?
Oh, I always say this one, and I always forget the writer who coined it. He says, "I only write when inspiration strikes." Fortunately, inspiration strikes every morning at 9 o'clock sharp.
I love that.
So you wake up and you show up. You wake up and you show up. You do the work. Like even if it doesn't feel right at the moment, even if you are not blessed by the angels or whatever you believe in, you show up and you do the work, and when you show up, you will create greatness.
Yes, man. Thank you so much for coming on, man. The last question I have for you before we let you go is, where is the best place for people to find you online?
Thank you for inviting me. It's my pleasure. And they can find me on Instagram at d.orlandini. Also, aimfulbooks.com and aimfulbooks on Instagram as well. And all over, just a quick Google search and with my name will give a lot of results in which that they can find me.
Perfect, brother. Thank you again. We'll talk with you soon.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
The podcast you just heard was published with Anchor. Got something you want to say to the creator of this show? Send them a voice message using the Anchor app, free for iOS and Android.